Hello, everyone, and welcome to Harris County Public Library's virtual write-in for Camp NaNoWriMo. If you're unfamiliar with Camp NaNoWriMo, it's a less intimidating spin-off of National Novel Writing Month, also called NaNoWriMo, which takes place every November. Please feel free to ask questions in chat or just chat along with us. We'll answer any questions as we can. I'm Amy, the manager at the Bear Creek Library. And those of you who have tuned into our previous events may remember that I'm also an author, and today I am joined by fellow author Ark Horton. Hi, Ark Horton. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. I'm so happy you're joining me here today. So, if you could, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your books.
Well, I am a fantasy writer, or I would like to say a speculative fiction writer, because sometimes I dabble in science fiction. I have a series out. It's a trilogy called the Telverin Trilogy, and the first book in the series is Struggling with the Current. And now I'm starting a new series called Secret of the Pantheons, and the first book will be out in June. It's called Heroes and Harbingers.
Ooh, that's really exciting. And I think it's up for pre-order already. Is that right?
Yeah, I went up today.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's very exciting.
Thanks.
And I'm for our listeners, I'm a little bit biased because I got to beta read the first book in this new series and it was a lot of fun. So if you're looking for like an adult Harry Potter, Percy Jackson with mythology, but with like a lot of teacher point of views for the adults, it's a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. And I'm hoping we'll be able to add that to the library eventually as well. So that'll be great. So are you doing anything for Camp NaNoWriMo this year?
I'm kind of taking it easy because during my day job, I work in taxes. So April is usually a pretty busy month. But I am working on the sequel to Heroes and Harbingers, and it's called Portals and Pantheons. So my goal is a little light, but I do plan on getting at least 2 more chapters done. And as you know, my chapters are usually somewhere between 3 to 5,000 words. So somewhere between 9 to 15,000 words is what I'm shooting for this month.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure you can do that because I know that when you binge write, you get a lot done. So
Oh, yes, they
awesome.
do.
Yeah, I'm in between books right now for my Camp NaNoWriMo. So I've been writing, but I've dabbled with like a short story that's like one of the little mini prequels for my Outlaw Mage series. And then I'm working on Dragon Latitudes, which is a new series. And I was also like, oh, I have an idea for book 4 in my Outlaw Mage series. So I wrote a little bit on that. It's like I'm all over the place right now. I'm like a hot mess this month.
Oh man, I love your Outlaw Mages series, though. I cannot wait for Dreamer. Oh my goodness.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and for our listeners out there, Dreamer is coming out in June, and that's when Ark Horton's book comes out as well. So you can see those back to back in June. She's June 11th, and mine releases June 13th.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get down to the business of our fun write-in today. So for today's write-in, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. So for those who want to play along and write with us, this is going to be like an improvisational write-in. And I decided to borrow a little bit from Whose Line Is It Anyway? With a dash of ideas from a writing game called The Storymatic. So this is the Storymatic for people who are curious. You can buy it online at lots of places. I got it for Christmas and I was like, I'm going to use it for a write-in because that sounds cool. So you can use the characters and setting a plot that we're going to provide if you want, but you don't have to. All right, so let's go take a look at our first slide for the write-in. Okay, so as it says, the write-in where everything is made up and the points don't matter, so use what you like of this. So our characters, if you'd like to use them, are an animal psychic with a devastating secret, and an employee in a fast food restaurant who should not be in charge. And if you want to use those characters along with our setting and plot prompt, the setting is a cemetery at 5 in the morning, and the plot is an unwanted inheritance. So our streamer is going to bring a timer up and we're going to be writing for 7 minutes. And at the end of that time, we'll come back and we'll share anything that we've written. And if you're watching, you're welcome to share what you wrote in the chat too. We'll see you soon. Hey, and we're back. So our listeners out there are welcome to tell us how they did in chat and maybe share some if you'd like. Ark, how did you do?
I had a little fun. I decided to do this from the perspective of the restaurant manager who should not be in charge, just to see what would happen when they bumped into an animal detective in a cemetery at 5 a.m.
Yeah, awesome. Do you want to share anything that you wrote with us?
Sure. I won't read the whole thing because I'd love to see more of what other people do. But to show that I did go first person, which I know you know is not my norm. I'd lost love for my job long ago, and now I pretty much spent nights watching Netflix on my phone until somebody rolled up to the drive-through menu. And then, oh God, I had to get a little poetic at one point because, you know, when I bump into the animal detective at 5 a.m. in the cemetery, his sobs were soft and they carried on the wind like the scent of the climbing jasmine on the fence nearby. So I gotta put something in like that every once in a while because the jasmine smells really good at my house right now. So I'm thinking about it. How about you?
I love it. Well, I managed 235 words. So I'll share what I did. I'll read the whole thing because I'm amused by it. And if anyone else has written, you're free to share it in chat and we'll read it out loud too. Devin rubbed his arms as a chill wind washed over him. He stared at the tombstone before him, though it was difficult to read the words etched into the granite. He didn't want anything to do with this place or this relative, but he hadn't been able to ignore the strange note he'd received when he was closing the previous evening at the Tasty Freeze. His brother said his work at the fast food restaurant was a dead-end job, and Devin was starting to believe him. He screwed everything up without fail. The ice cream machine debacle of March 25th was proof of that. Maybe he wasn't even cut out for the most basic of jobs. He sighed, staring at the tombstone as if it offered some hope for the future. Good, you're here. I was afraid you wouldn't come. Devin jumped at the unfamiliar voice, spinning with a hand clutched to his chest. A woman approached, cloaked in darkness with... Was that an otter scuttling by her side? Yeah, I'm here. I'm opening at the Tasty Freeze, and this was on my way, so I figured I may as well. Devin gave a lazy shrug as if he didn't care. Are you the one who sent me the note? The woman smiled. No, she is. She gestured to the otter, who curled around one of the strange woman's legs and chittered at Devin. So that's as far as I got, but that was fun.
That is a lot of fun. Looks like we have something over here.
We do? You want to go ahead and read it for us?
Yeah. One day a girl named Nola, I love that name, got a job at a pet psychic store. She worked like any other employee, but after a while, her boss started noticing weird behavior in the animals. A few days later, her boss went to the cemetery at 5 a.m. to visit her uncle. She said Nola, with her eyes black, chanting. Then her boss realized she was talking to an animal. She saw Nola with her eyes black chanting. Then her boss realized she was talking to an animal and making it rabid. Oh gosh. Okay, that is a little scary. I like that. I like that.
That's got some interesting stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wonder if it's going to become like a horror Bunnicula type scenario.
I love Bunnicula. Oh, yeah, that does look like a lot of fun. And I love that whenever, I watch a show and somebody's eyes go black, I'm like, oh, yes, it's about to get scary.
It's going down.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if anyone else has written something, you're welcome to put it in chat. We would love to see what you've written. Or if you want to share something in one of our upcoming writing sessions, you are welcome to it. But let's go ahead and see what we're going to be writing about next.
Okay. Our next sprint is a dialogue challenge. Use one of the following in your story, or both if you want. Do you know who I am? Or, so I'm not you're wondering why I gathered you, which is classic for any detective.
Those are going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully some of our writers will use those as well. And we will see you in 7 minutes. All right, we're back. How did the writing go? Oh no, I think we lost your sound again.
User error.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I took it in a slightly different direction. So.
Ooh, you want to share any with us?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to start back here. I don't know what came over me at this time in the morning and in a cemetery. I should have put as much distance between me and this stranger as possible. But my mouth didn't have the logic my brain did, and I spit out, "Excuse me, are you okay?" He turned his face from the gravestone, wiping the tears from his cheeks in the process. He squinted at me and then shook his head. "No, it can't be you, Sarah." My heart stopped. Goosebumps raced across my arms. How could he know my name? Do you know who I am? He stood up and walked closer. This time my sense of self-preservation kicked in and I backed away, ready to sprint in the opposite direction if need be. But my body refused to move when he got close enough for me to smell the stale coffee on his breath. All my years as an animal psychic, and I never thought this would happen, he said. You're a person, not a bunny or a dog or a snake.
Ooh, I like that turn. That's awesome. Well, if anyone else is writing with us, you're welcome to add your comment and we will read yours too.
Would love to see some.
So I managed 222 words and I continued Devon's unfortunate adventures. So I'll read a little bit of mine. Devon blinked. He was sure he had misheard. What? The woman blew out a breath. Do you know who I am? Should I? Devon wondered if he was screwing something else up. That would be his luck. The otter squeaked support and gamboled over, putting a tiny paw on his shoe. I'm Ravenna Jones, she said grandly. Devon stared. That didn't help. Okay? Ravenna Jones blew out a frustrated breath. Ravenna Jones, world-famous animal psychic? I have a show on the Discovery Channel. Does that ring a bell? Devon's cheeks warmed. Sorry, no, I only watch Netflix. Ravenna waved a hand. Never mind, it doesn't matter. So I bet you're wondering why I've gathered you here. Great, now they were on to something. Devon nodded. Yeah, I mean, aside from this cryptic note about my great-aunt Gertie's inheritance, he made a face. Ravenna frowned. You don't want the inheritance? The otter chittered as if she, too, was judging him. Devon ran a hand through his close-cropped hair. Great-aunt Gertie founded Otterworld. Her vast fortune came to her by the suffering of adorable little sea creatures like that one. He pointed to the otter. The otter heaved herself upright, bracing her paws against Devon's leg and chirping as if she were lecturing him on the finer points of otters. That's where I ended it for now.
I love it. It's so fun. And I love that your fast food worker also enjoys Netflix. Who doesn't, right?
They could have a Netflix and chill night together.
Yeah, that would be great. They'd have a lot in common. Like, did you bump into an animal psychic too? What are the odds?
All right, looks like we have a chatter who has added something too. So it's a continuation from Kai. So I'll read what she said. Her boss said, Nola, in a nervous voice. Nola said nothing. Then her boss realized she had a group of rabid animals. Nola said, I bet you're all wondering why I've gathered you all here. Her boss fainted and woke up to Nola staring with dead eyes. Do you know who I am? Her boss said. Her boss said, yeah, Nola. Nola said, no, I'm the animal queen, as she slapped her with a belt. Her boss fainted. Her boss is having a really rough night.
That is a really difficult night. Like you hired this person and now she's got this group of animals gone rabid. That is something else, man.
I'm gonna have to write this crazy incident report and no one is gonna believe that poor boss.
No. Poor guy. All right. Anything else? Okay. All right. Well, our next sprint has more inspiration from the Storymatic game. Use one or more of the following in your writing.
Oh, actually, I think you've got a little ahead of us.
Oh, I
Go
am.
back one more, Taylor. Audra's trying to cut to the chase.
I am.
Back a little more. Little back more. Can we go back? There we go. Maybe. Back again. Back one more. There we go. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay. For our next sprint, look to your left. The first thing you notice is now in your story. So we're going to write for 7 minutes with adding the thing to our left, and we will see what happens. Happy writing. Okay, we're back, and I hope our commenters will tell us in chat what thing you added to your story and maybe share with us. So, Ark, what did you add to your story? Oh, you're muted again.
Okay, I've been in enough Zoom meetings where this shouldn't be an issue, but today it is. Let's see here. That was enough. Meeting a stranger at 5 a.m. in the cemetery was strange on its own, but adding some weird story about being an animal psychic and I was out. I tried to push him away, but my fingers passed right through him. I pulled my hand back, staring at it, wondering why I'd imagined something so impossible. Panicking, I pushed with both hands so hard that it tumbled right through him, almost falling to my knees. "Sarah, don't panic," the man called behind me. "I'll explain everything." I whipped around to face him again. "Explain? How do you explain this?" He pulled a pack of tissues from his pocket as if to offer it to me. Then he shook his head and stuffed it in his pocket. "Oh yeah, you can't hold this. You're a ghost." "What?" He looked at me with such tender eyes. I said I'd explain, and I will, but first you gotta calm down. "I'll calm down when you start making sense."
Never tell a woman or a ghost to calm down.
It's very true. How about you? What do you have?
Oh, and I think we missed it. So what was the thing you added that was to your left?
Oh, it was tissues.
Oh, tissues. Okay, cool. So I added an iPhone because it's literally right to my left. So I wrote, continuing poor Devon's adventure, Ravina huffed. "My God, you really believe that, do you?" Devon scowled. "Yeah, of course." He pulled out his iPhone, unlocking it with Face ID and opening YouTube. He navigated to his favorite channel, Otter World Undercover. He held it out for Ravina's inspection. "See? Look at the suffering." Ravina peered down at the video of two otters playing in an enclosure. She glanced back up at him. "I don't get it. What am I seeing?" "They're not free," Devon insisted. Ravina rolled her eyes. "Show Pepper." "Who's Pepper?" "The otter." "Oh, right." Devon felt like an idiot as he crouched down to show the screen to the otter, but the small creature studied it intently before slapping a claw against it. Devon looked up at the animal psychic. "Does that mean something?" "Pepper is telling you that's her bestie, Lucy. She's having the time of her life, playing and eating all she wants, in a place where she never has to worry about being eaten by a predator." Devon stared. "You got all that from her smacking my screen with a paw?" "No, I got that from her brain. Psychic, remember?" Ravina tapped her own forehead with meaning. "So they don't want to be free, living in the wild and all that?" Devon couldn't believe he was having this discussion with an animal psychic and an otter at 5 in the morning in a cemetery. Maybe he was too stressed from work and was hallucinating. Pepper the otter chittered again and shook her whiskers. "Pepper says she's much happier being waited on by big, dumb humans." That was all I got.
That's so great. I love otters, by the way, so I am very much enjoying this story.
Well, we went to SeaWorld over the weekend, and my littlest was entranced by the otters. So I was like, I'm going to put that in the story.
Otters. Every time I go anywhere where there's aquatic animals, I'm always looking for the otters. They're just so cute.
They really are. And I actually heard them like make the little like chirping noise because I never knew what sound they'd made before. So I was like, oh, I could actually put in the story the little chirpy sound they make.
So cute. You know what I did for a scene where I was riding an alligator? I listened to alligator sounds for hours.
I remember that. I remember you posting about that on Twitter. That was really cool.
Yeah. Oh, we got something from Kai. She woke up to a room with a painting of two people, one feeding chickens and the other staring out the window. She looked around the room and the picture changed. Now they were painting a house. It kept changing until she knew they were clues. Wow, that is very imaginative. I love this idea.
This is going some really spooky places, but I'm interested to see where we keep going with this one. So thanks for writing with us, Kai.
Yeah, love it. Okay.
All right, well, now we could go on to the sprint that you wanted to do earlier.
Yeah, I know. I was just jumping ahead. Our next sprint has more inspiration from the Storymatic game. Use one or more of the following in your writing: footsteps, an enormous stuffed animal, and a kiss. We'll write for 7 minutes and then see what exciting thing happens next.
Happy writing! All right. Welcome back, everyone.
I am eager to hear yours.
All right. So for me, I chose all of the prompts. I accepted the challenge of all of them. So here is the continuing adventures of Devin. Devin frowned. Okay, so I'm supposed to believe this? He laughed, the stressed out laugh of someone at the end of his rope. He checked his watch. I need to get into work. I can't deal with this right now. He turned and started to march to the exit. Wait! Ravina trotted after him, her footsteps echoing on the flagstones. You do realize your inheritance is Otterworld, right? He paused, then spun to face her. He'd expected something else. Money. Maybe an enormous stuffed animal collection. Not the entirety of Otterworld. Devin trembled. What? Otterworld, Ravina repeated. The whole thing. She left it to you. Why? Devin asked, totally at a loss. He hadn't known Great Aunt Gertie that well. No one in the family had. She hadn't been close to anyone, too obsessed with her otters. His only real memory of even seeing her was a picture at his grandmother's house of Great Aunt Gertie kissing an otter. Pepper started to chirp again. She dashed around Devin's legs, then tugged at his pants with one clever, clawed paw. Ravina glanced down at the aquatic creature. Because Gertrude Smith knew that of all of her family, you're the one who loves animals the most and will always have their well-being at heart. And that was where I ended it.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that idea too. I want to inherit Otterworld personally. They can give it to me.
So how'd you do? Were you able to use any of them in your story?
I used all three as well. So I'll recap from the last line. I'll calm down when you start making sense. He nodded. That's a good point. Sarah, what's the last thing you remember? Working at my boring job, and I stopped. That wasn't exactly right. There was something else, something different, begging to be rediscovered. Only pieces came to me. There was an enormous stuffed animal. It was ridiculous, really, but it made me very happy for some reason, and I touched my fingers to my lips. A kiss? A shiver ran through me. And then footsteps, such awful footsteps, they echoed. I looked at the man. He looked familiar now, but in the way an acquaintance from some long-ago party did. Who are you? Jonathan. His voice cracked as he said his name, as if trying to hold back a sob. He took a deep breath. That was our kiss. More came to me as the dawn light brightened. I saw his eyes now, warm and brown. His subtly crooked nose and cleft chin caught my attention right away. But there were wrinkles where none should exist. This man was easily in his 40s, if not older.
Ooh, I like that. And if we have any chatters who have written anything, we would love to read what you have. While we wait to see if anybody chats anything at us, we're starting to run a little bit short on time. So, Ark, do you think we have time for one more prompt before we have to end it for the night?
Yeah, I think we do.
Okay, awesome. So we have 2 additional prompts we could use. So we can pick between our plot element challenge or our senses challenge. So for the plot element challenge, you can use either what was that sound or a broken promise. And let's look at our senses challenge to see which one we want to pick out of these. That'll be the next slide. So for this challenge, you would write the next part by focusing on any of the other senses except for sight. So we'll think about which one of those we want to do, but it looks like we have a submission from Kai again. So she wrote, footprints appeared. They were enormous and round. She followed them to a door that wasn't there before. It led to a library. Straight in front of her was a huge cat stuffy. It said hi in a low voice. Nola's boss couldn't believe her eyes. She said, "Where am I?" The cat said, "The 19th dimension." Her boss sat down and started crying. The cat said, "No, don't cry," and kissed her on the forehead.
Oh, this went in a sweet direction, actually.
This is like a Alice in Wonderland type of thing.
It is, yeah.
All right,
Okay.
so Arc, since you're our guest, I will let you pick if we're going to do the senses or the plot element.
I think we should go to the plot element. That looks like a lot of fun.
Okay, we will go back one slide. And for this one, let's kind of raise the stakes. So for this one, let's do it for 5 minutes. So a little bit shorter time if Taylor can make it 5 minutes. So we'll use one of the following of what was that sound or a broken promise. And we will see everyone again in 5 minutes to see what you did. Okay, we are back from our final sprint. So, did you use one of those plot elements, Arc?
I did. I used the broken promise, but in a very bittersweet way.
Ooh, you want to read some to us? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. I reached for his face, but just as before, my fingers could only pass through him. If I could have cried, I would have, but ghosts don't cry, they haunt. Morning after morning, I walked this route, always remembering my last shift, my happiest shift. He tried to hold me, but couldn't. He shared the tears I couldn't. You made a promise, Jonathan, I said. We were supposed to grow old together.
Oh, I love that. And I love the line about how the ghost can't cry, they haunt. Ooh, that's like right in the feels. That's perfect.
So sad. I would hate that as a ghost.
I know. Yeah, because we had big feels. We got to show those big feels.
How about Otterworld?
So, and while I read about the continuation of Otterworld, if anyone else wrote something, go ahead and put that in chat. We would love to see what you wrote. And here is, I almost managed to tie this up, but I'll have to like finish it up off of the write-in. But here we go. Devin shook his head. How did she even know that? Somewhere in the distance, a soft chiming sound carried to them. Like wind chimes, only somehow not. Gooseflesh pebbled Devin's arms. Even Ravenna was concerned. What was that sound? Pepper, however, had no such worries. She scampered away from the pair, right back to the tombstone. The otter rubbed up against it like a housed cat greeting her mistress, and a thin wisp seemed to rise from the ground like morning mist. Like knows like. The words were whisper soft, like a loving caress. Devin backpedaled, his heart thundering as he realized that the formless specter of his aunt stared at him. You, it was always you. Take care of my babies. The mist touched the otter and receded. Pepper made a sad sound, head and tail drooping as if in mourning. That was where I had to end it because I ran out of time.
I love it. you should finish that sometime later and send it to me.
I think I will. I'll probably give it to my newsletter because it's been kind of fun to write. And I just cracked 1,000 words, so it's definitely a short story length.
Oh, sweet. I'm a little behind you. I'm at 795, but I'm also unfinished, and I'm like, I have to finish this. I can't leave it here. So
yeah, you did really good finishing it out. I love that. You should send that to your newsletter too.
Ooh, I'll try. I'll give that a try.
Yeah. And if anyone else has written something, we would love to read it. But if not, then that is okay too. We'll give our people a moment to chime in. While we wait for that, what was your favorite prompt from this group tonight?
That is, that's a difficult question because they're really good prompts. Just the initial premise of it was fun because I'm like, how do I tie this together? An animal psychic, a fast food worker in a cemetery at 5 a.m. So that was fun to put together.
That was kind of my thought too, because normally when I start a story, like I'm one of those, I bring the characters with me to the story. So it was different to like have these characters I didn't know anything about and like, oh, how are they going to interact with the story?
Yeah. I always love doing that. What is your favorite part? I know you're more of a pantser and I'm more of a plotter, but what is your favorite part about developing the story?
I really like getting to know the characters and like learning more about them, of what makes them tick, and like having them annoy me because they pick hobbies that I don't know anything about, like baking and crocheting and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my God, I have to like Google these things and like watch videos, and oh my gosh, like it's frustrating but also awesome. But like, yeah, definitely learning about the characters.
Yeah, I like to call them my imaginary friends that live in my head.
They are. And in fact, one of my characters, and if people are going to think like, oh, she's crazy, but like one of my characters, there was a book I saw on Libby, and he was like, you need to listen to this audiobook because I'm very interested in that. And I was like, seriously? And he was like, yes. So I listened to an entire audiobook because a character demanded it, but it was really good.
Yep, I know that feeling.
All right. And it looks like we don't have any more chatters with us for the night, but we want to thank Kai for hanging out with us. It was awesome to see your writing, and I would love to know how this crazy story ended for you.
It's really going down some interesting paths. It's giving me very haunted house vibes. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight for our virtual write-in. We had a lot of fun. And I also want to thank you, Art Horton, for joining us. It was so much fun to write with you tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. It was just great to hang out with you.
And don't forget for our viewers to join us for our next week for our final Camp NaNoWriMo event, which is all about screenwriting. And you can join us for our regular HCPL Writes program. The next one is going to be May 10th, also at 6:30 Central Time. We're going to be talking about genre-bending writing, and Art Horton's going to join me for that, as well as Bree Tart and J.R. Frontera. So we're going to have an awesome group. So don't forget to check us out then. And don't forget to check out all of the other fabulous HCPL events by going to hcpl.net. So thanks for joining us today, and we hope to see you soon.